Hi everybody, welcome to this My tutorial. In this lesson we're going to do some more polygon modeling, and we're just going to make a water jug using some poly modeling objects and using some poly modeling techniques using these three menu items up here as we have previously. Okay, so we're going to make just a water jug. So it's going to be a cylinder jug with a handle. So it means we're going to have to join some objects together. So we're going to do a slightly different joining technique than previously with the Boolean. We're going to be using a mesh combine instead of a Boolean object. So this is just going to give us a little bit more control over what we're doing. So I'm going to start off by creating a cylinder. I'm going to try and make that fairly water jug shape. And I'm going to go into the attributes here. So if I don't have my attribute editor open, click over here. And I'm going to change the amount of subdivisions on my cylinder to 12. Maybe even 16. I think probably 16 would be a fair amount. I'm just doing this by eye. Okay, good. So I've got some subdivisions, and I'm also going to give it a cap subdivision, and I'm going to give it 2 height subdivisions. Excellent. Okay, so first thing we want to do is start editing our jug. So I'm going to make the part that contains the liquid. So what I'm going to do is choose right click. My mouse is playing up a bit. Okay, there we go. Edge. I'm just going to make this edge a little bit bigger. So I can select each one, or I can just double click on this edge, and it's going to select the entire loop here. So you see how it's selected every single edge in that loop, and that's a technique we're going to be using a bit. So I'm going to choose that and scale over here. Remember our scale tools. And make that a bit bigger. And I'm going to select all of these polygons in the center here, all these faces, and I'm going to extrude them downwards. And unfortunately, with these triangles, it won't actually select these automatically for you. So instead of introducing a new tool, I'm just going to select these polys. Now, if we remember back to our previous tutorial, the shortcut for extruding is Control E, or we can just go up into Edit Mesh and extrude. I'm going to use the blue arrow. It's very important here to have this little setting here. It says keep faces together. Make sure that's on. If you have a strange result, that's often the case. But typically, keep faces together is on unless you've changed it specifically. Okay, so now this is going to be where the water is held in our water jug. Yep, like so. And so I'm going to put my handle on this side, and I'm going to put the spout on the other side. So I might put in an extra edge loop here, which is in Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. I'll put in an edge loop just in here. And I'm going to push this forward. So I'm going to use the I can just use vertex, choose these 2 vertexes, make sure you change the tool. I'm going to push them out, and that's going to be the portion that actually where the water pours out of. I'm going to tip that down a little bit too. That's what my jug at home looks like. Okay, good. Now we're going to introduce some new tools in a minute, but first I'm going to mold the handle, join it together, and then attach it to my water jug. So we're going to do a few, it's going to take a few moves to get this right. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is create a box-like handle. Insert some edge loops. insert edge loop at the top and at the bottom. And then I'm going to extrude these two out using the faces. Control E. Hopefully remember that by now. And once again, I'm just eyeballing this jug. I'm just doing this by view. And I'm just going to go back to object mode so I can put it into place. I'm going to tap spacebar so I can help line this up a bit better. So I'll be able to see if it's lined up from the top. That looks pretty good. Okay, so back to perspective mode. Okay, good. So what we need to do is have the right amount of mesh to be able to join these objects together. So you can see here that I have a split in the middle here, whereas I don't have a split in the middle of this. So what I might do is just cut some extra mesh around here, and that's going to make my life a lot easier. So what I'll do, I'm going to join the objects together. So I'm going to select them both and choose Mesh Combine. So now these are going to be one object. So if I click off it and click on it, it's got them both selected as one object. But I actually need to join the mesh together itself too. So not just join them as one object, but join these mesh bits together here. So I need this mesh to more or less match up. So I'm going to use some more of these tools from this same menu in this Mesh Tools menu. Edit Mesh, Mesh, and Mesh Tools. Okay, so I might insert a new edge loop here. Just at the top of this, where the mesh is going to join. I'm going to slide that one up to match that way, and I'll put one at the bottom as well. Good. And I'm even going to put some extra mesh in either side here. So I'll put a loop, oops, I missed that one. So I'll put a loop in here. And I'll put a loop in over here. Now this will cause a little bit of an issue right in the middle of our mesh, but we're not going to see that in this instance. So don't get too hung up about that. See how that's going to cut out there? Don't worry too much about that. For this instance, we can talk about topology a bit later in another lesson. Okay, so we've got the mesh that more or less matches up, but I want to get rid of this middle line here too. So what I'm going to do is choose Edge. So get rid of that tool. So I'm going to choose the Move tool. So if I select this, I don't want this whole line. This whole line is useless. So if I double click on it, it's going to select all of this entire line. So because I've got these lines on either side for it. And this isn't going to match up with this handle, so I want to get rid of it. So the trick to doing this is I can go to Mesh and, whoops, wrong one. Edit Mesh, sorry, and delete edge or vertex. Or you can see here it's got this shortcut, Control Delete. So we can delete that by using the menu or by the shortcut Control Delete. So now now this is going to match up with our handle a lot better. The other thing I'm going to do is double click this line here. I'm going to move it up so it's closer to this, closer to the edge of this. I'm going to move this one down there. So that's looking ready to join up. So see we've got a polygon here. When we look at this, is going to be one polygon to join up to one polygon, so that'll look nice and neat. Okay, so I'm going to go back to edges. Oops. I'll probably move this a little bit close. I'm going to move these edges back just so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to weld these points together. So this is going to use the weld tool to weld these points together. So first of all, I want to cut this face out. So I'll delete this face just by pressing the delete key. I'll delete this face. I'm going to join these two bits together. I want to join these vertexes together. Remember, a vertex are these points that make up the mesh. So we've got vertexes, edges, and faces. So what I'm going to do is choose the mesh tools, and right down the bottom is target weld. And I'm going to weld this one to here. I'll rotate that so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to weld this one together. I'm going to weld this one together, and I'm going to weld this one together as well. So that's nice and neat. So if we can see, if I press the 3 key now, oops, I'll choose my mesh. Good. If you can see the 3 key, this one's nicely joined, whereas at the bottom, it's actually still not joined. It's still detached when I use the smooth 3 key. So I want to do the same thing down the bottom here. So I'm just going to choose my edge. And double clicking. Should have chosen that loop, but it didn't. So let's just, that time it did. It doesn't really matter because we're going to be welding it anyway. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is choose this polygon face, delete it. I'm going to choose this polygon face and delete that. Okay, good. And now I'm going to weld these together just like I did with the first one. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to choose mesh tools, right down the bottom, target weld. And there's a little bit of a cheat too that if you've just used a function, you can press the G key to reuse it. So that's a good way if you're using the same tool over and over again. G is just a shortcut to do the last command that you just last performed. Good. So now I've welded all that together. And now I can just test that by pressing the 3 smooth view. And see, that's nicely joined together as well. I'm pretty happy with that. That's actually pretty decent. Although I could probably pronounce this lip of this jug a little bit better. And I could probably fix up this square bit in the handle. I don't really like how square that handle's looking as well. So I might even just do another weld here, and I'll just get a triangle. So remember we said I can go to mesh tools and target weld, or I can just press G. So that's going to show me back into my number 1 view. So I might just press 1 to make this look less confusing. So 1, 2, and 3 is controlling the smooth or non-smooth view. So I'm just going to weld that together like that. And there's probably better ways I could do this, so I don't have such a square section underneath. But it doesn't really matter for a very simple object like this and what we're doing here for today's lesson. So now that looks a bit more like a handle. And to make this a bit more pronounced, I might actually use the crease tool. So you remember we used the crease tool last time. So what I'm going to do is choose edge and use my arrow tool, double click it. And see, I've just double clicked that and it's selected this entire edge. I'm going to select both of these edges. So it's just kept on, it's selected that entire loop. So it's a quick way of selecting a lot of things simultaneously. Good, so now what I'm going to do is, we did this last time, is I'm going to choose a mesh tools and crease tool. Use my middle mouse button and I'm going to drag right to increase or left to decrease. So I'm going to increase that a bit. I actually like that nice hard edge there. And I might even sharpen this a little bit up here by selecting that and increasing the crease on that. So I've got a more pronounced edge on that. I can do that better. Even though I'm probably not going to be pouring much water with this, I think that'll look better with a bit more crease in it. So once again, the crease tool flattens out those curves that that the mesh smooth creates. So we can get some things looking nice and smooth like our handle, and some things nice and sharp like this section that pours our beverage. Okay, and You can definitely use the crease tool in here too if we wanted to. We could definitely use the crease tool to sort of make this handle look a bit more naturally joined. So I'll use the right mouse, middle mouse button and drag right. I'll just sort of pinch that in a bit, and that's looking much better. Okay, that's very good. Now you can see here that those polys that we made before, those extra polygons that we made before, are behaving a little bit funny with the smooth. So they're not smoothing really well, and that's because we've actually created a thing called we've created a thing here called an n-gon, which is just a polygon that's got too many sides. So we can fix that up using our weld tool, but nobody's really going to look at this mesh from underneath. And see, I've got the same thing in here. So this mesh isn't really going to be seen from underneath, so it doesn't really matter too much. But if you wanted to fix that up, if you're wondering why you're getting these funny pinches, that's probably why you're not using your four-sided shapes. Okay, so that concludes this tutorial. So what we've done today is joined two polygon objects with the mesh combined, and then we've used the weld tool in mesh tools, target weld right down the bottom, to join the individual vertexes together. So that's another tool we've used, as well as once again using the insert edge loop and the the insert edge loop and the extrude tool. Okay, thank you very much.